long for a Battlefield 6. EA, we're begging, please don't break our hearts with tricks. Grab your controllers, let's hope for the best. We're pleading for a game that stands above the rest. Oh, Battlefield 6, we're counting on you. EA, your last games left us feeling so blue. Battlefield 4 had bugs that made us sigh. Crashes and glitches brought tears to our eyes. Battlefield 2042, oh, what went wrong? No scoreboard, no spirit, it didn't belong. We want epic battles, tanks that roar and boom. Please, EA, don't lock it all behind the paywall's gloom. This is our plea for Battlefield 6. EA, we're begging, don't repeat those old tricks. No pricey loot boxes, no greedy schemes. Give us a game that fulfills our dreams. We want a war that feels alive and grand. Battlefield 6, please take a stand. Gamers are praying from cities to towns. Don't mess this up, EA, don't let us down. We want maps that shine with beauty and flow, not a broken launch that steals the show. Your past few games, they stumbled and fell. Servers that crashed put us through pure hell, but we're holding hope like a spark in the night. Battlefield 6, please make it right. This is our plea for Battlefield 6. EA, we're begging, don't repeat those old tricks. No 20 skins for a rusty old gun. Just let us fight and have some honest fun. We want a war that feels alive and grand. Battlefield 6, please take a stand. Listen, EA, we're down on our knees. No overpriced passes, we're begging you, please. We don't need a store for every single thing. Just give us jet squads and a Battlefield ring. The world is watching from streams to the news, hoping this game won't leave us confused. Make it feel alive, let the battles ignite. Battlefield 6, so please get it right. We dream of a game where the servers stay strong, where the hitboxes work and the lag is long gone. No more pre-order now for a shiny new knife. Just give us the chaos that brings war to life. With the frostbite engine, make the visuals glow. Take your time, EA, let the quality show. The world's holding its breath from New York to Nome. Battlefield 6, bring the soldiers back home. This is our plea for Battlefield 6. EA, we're begging, don't repeat those old tricks. No pricey loot boxes, no greedy schemes. Give us a game that fulfills our dreams. We want a war that feels alive and grand. Battlefield 6, please take a stand. Oh, Battlefield 6, we're rooting for you. EA, please don't break our hearts, we're begging you true. From the battlefield's dust to the skies up above, make a game we'll all cherish with joy and with love. One chance, one game, we're pleading today. Don't let hope slip away.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the stream. Glad to have you. 'Twill be a good day. Dare I say, a fun day. Or perhaps, may possibly, a Friday. If we are lucky. Welcome, everybody. Apologies for the late start. It's been kind of a weird day. Lots of craziness going on. But We are good now. Rocking and rolling, vibing, and chilling. As you do. As you do. Welcome, everybody. I see some people got gifted memberships while we were off stream. That's crazy. What are the odds of that? Thank you to whoever did that. That's wonderful. Yeah, your house employees demanding more pay. They wouldn't dare. Oh, no. I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't do that. You know, I have my elevator guy. I have our 3 or 4 butlers. We have a couple of housekeepers. There is the one guy, his whole job is to just take care of Romeo. And I mean, it's a pretty straightforward job. But yeah, he was asking for a livable wage. Can you imagine? Yeah. Joke is, all of those jobs are mine. I have to do it all and I don't get paid. It's very sad. But you know what? We're here to talk about games and have a good day. One of you guys sent me a DM with this link and you were like, is this why you're late to stream today? And if I knew the username, they'd be banned instantly. Okay. This is my hometown. So this is real, but apparently. But no, this is not why I was late to stream today.
Fort Collins, who identifies as a man from Fort Collins, who identifies as a wolf furry, has been mauled in Wyoming after attempting to join an actual pack of wolves.
It's not funny, guys. It's tragic. This is not funny. This is very serious.
Described wolf furry from Fort Collins is recovering in a Wyoming hospital after attempting to integrate himself into an actual pack of wild wolves.
It's not funny. It's very serious. Not funny.
28-year-old Lupus Moonhowl,
That's not my code name. Stop saying it is.
known as Brian Sanders, was spotted crawling on all fours in full faux fur attire, complete with a tail, plastic fangs, and a Bluetooth speaker playing recorded howls.
Just like real wolves.
Witnesses say he approached the wolves while tossing raw hamburger meat in their direction as a gesture of friendship.
Listen, this is, on the one hand, it's hilarious. On the other hand, you cannot be right in the head and do this. Like, clearly something's off. Luke, did you just suggest somebody's mentally ill? Yes, if they're going into a wolf pack and throwing hamburger meat at them while walking around in a fursuit with a Bluetooth speaker playing wolf sounds, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say something happened. Something's off.
The wolves, of course, reportedly responded by chasing him nearly 300 yards before testing his durability with a series of bites and swipes. A game warden on the scene described the encounter as, quote, the fastest I've ever seen someone regret a lifestyle choice. He suffered
Jesus Christ.
multiple puncture wounds, torn synthetic fur, and severe emotional disillusionment. You don't say! When asked by reporters if he'd attempt to rejoin the pack after recovery, he replied, probably not.
Probably
they didn't
not.
seem very into the role play.
It was the fastest I've ever seen somebody regret a lifestyle choice. Yeah. Who could have seen that coming? But no, that is not why I was late to stream today. Okay. It's not why. I'm not going to show you below the waist today, not because I'm horribly mauled, but because I'm wearing shorts and, you couldn't handle it. Whoops. Oh, look at you. Lucky. There you go. Isn't Lupus Moonhowl Pirate Software's furry name? I think so. I think you might actually be right. Let's start that. Let's make that a thing. Let's get that going, guys. Get the ball rolling. Let's do it. Let's do it. What camera do you use for the stream? I'm using a Sony Alpha FX30. And it works quite well. It works quite well. In order to get 4K 60 capture, though, you have to look up what's called a Blackmagic 4K 60 capture card. It's like a commercial product. It's not one that's marketed towards gaming or whatever. It doesn't look exciting or anything. Where is it? Yeah, like this is what they look like. They're not that thrilling. This is the one I have to use for my setup. So when I say that this whole thing is not cheap to do, I'm not joking. The capture card just for this camera is like $600. It's stupid. This is why you shouldn't care about camera quality, because it's expensive, dude. It's freaking expensive as hell. And once you get a taste of good camera quality, you can never, ever go back. So trust me, just use a nice webcam. They're good enough for 99% of use cases, you know? 99%. Professor Sprinkles, thank you for the 5. Afternoon, Mr. Stevens. Do you plan on doing another long critique? Love your work, and what are the benefits of joining Patreon? We don't do Patreon anymore. If you still see Patreon linked somewhere, that is my bad. We do everything through YouTube memberships and Twitch subs now. Benefits are you get access to the exclusive Discord, and you also get access to members and like supporter only content. You get additional giveaways, stuff like that. It's pretty fun. And as for long giveaways, Jacob can answer that. Jacob, how long is the Mafia video looking like?
$25 through Super Chat. Hi, tuning in from a literal furry convention in Indianapolis, and I'm surrounded by wolves. Pray for me.
Avery, why? Why, Avery? Why? It's just under 3 hours right now, he says. How did I manage that? I don't know how I managed that. I thought it would be like a straight up 45-minute video. It was not. It was not. So yeah, if you're asking about critiques, there is another one coming. Jacob's working on it as we speak, and it's going to be over 2 hours, under 3 hours. Somewhere in that ballpark. But yeah, we are working on it. Hope to have it out in the next handful of days. So yeah. Do you do your Italian accent in the video? The entire time. Yeah, that's why it took so long, because I talk so slow. Under 3 hours is unacceptable. I know, dude. After the Starfield video being 8 hours, everything else seems like child's play. Let's see. Real quick, Luke gifted a membership before the stream even started. Thank you for that. Limit Breakers, thank you for the 5. Luke, I waited so long, I pissed on the studio carpet. We just found Romeo's account. I knew he watched the stream. I just didn't know what his username was. It's been Limit Breakers this whole time. Happy Friday to you and the team and chat. Let's get into some foolishness. I agree, my friend. We should. Also, thank you for gifting a membership. That was very generous. Dexter, thank you for the super chat. Crimson Desert got delayed to Q1 of 26. Your thoughts? We talked about it yesterday, or Wednesday, whenever that would have been. So what's interesting is that they're not saying they need more time to polish. They're saying they need time for like jumping through the hoops of console certification and distribution stuff. It's weird. It's one of the weirder excuses for a delay I've seen. But they also just released 13 minutes of new gameplay, which we're going to look at because I've not seen it. So they just dropped this 5 hours ago.
_I3R0KEN1 donated £19.99 through Super Chat.
Thank you. Very generous.
Hey, mate. FRST time on Stream. Saw video about TLOU2. You said THT Abby bumping into Joel by coincidence.
Oh, it stopped reading it. I was like, long pause. You said that Abby bumping into Joel by coincidence was a bad choice for the story, but Joel Tess looking after Ellie was a coincidence since Marlene bumped into Joel. To be clear, when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about contrived plot points, which is topical because that's a major point of discussion in the Mafia critique we're doing. Because there are There's one very, very forced plot point at the end of Mafia that we're not going to say because of spoilers, but it's a topic that I just rambled about for several hours, basically, in that video, which you'll see soon. But the reason I have a problem with contrived plot points is not necessarily because inherently contrived plot points are bad. And by contrived plot points, I mean like when an author is saying, I need this to happen, let's get the characters into that situation. Let's force them in. It's not a problem if it's emergent from the characters and it makes sense that the characters would do what they're doing and they end up in that situation. That's fine. I have no problem with that. In fact, any story that has any sort of like prophecy or prediction technically is creating a contrived story where they're trying to push characters into that situation. But when I have a problem with it is when they are forced to behave differently than what their character has been established as in order to get them to that situation. So if I'm like, I really think the story would be cool if at the end of the Gospels, Jesus hops into a UFO, says, screw you guys, and then goes to an endless buffet of orange chicken from Panda Express in the sky. And then he comes down with laser guns and annihilates the entire planet. That would not be in line with his character as written in the rest of the story. So it would feel out of place. It would feel jarring. It would feel bizarre, and it wouldn't work. And I think in the case of The Last of Us Part 2, they wanted Abby to run into Joel so that she could, spoilers, so that she could kill him. But they realized it would be so unrealistic that Joel would be out in a blizzard by himself that they had to put him with like somebody else, like Tommy. But then they were like, well, they would fight back. So Abby has to have her crew with her in order to be able to capture and then kill him. So we have to be able to get Joel and Tommy into their place where they're staying to be disarmed and attacked. So we have to create a blizzard that rolls in at this precise moment that they're both in this precise area at the same exact time. And then Joel also has to be very trusting of a total stranger in this very tense, serious situation. And it just starts to feel like they are pushing and cramming however they can the characters into this situation in the basement of that house because they decided that's how they wanted it to play out. And I have a problem with that because I think there are alternatives that would have worked way better, both in effect and in practice getting up to that point, such as having Abby slowly infiltrate into Jackson. It takes maybe a couple of weeks for her to gain the trust of people like Joel to be able to get access to him as somebody who's pretty senior within the ranks of Jackson, which apparently was an early draft. They wanted to do that, but they were worried that it would slow the pacing of the intros too much. I think what they ended up with had weird enough pacing that it probably still would have been better. But again, my point is just that I think whenever you have a really high stakes moment and you have something that's going to be very controversial, it has to be rock solid. Otherwise, it feels cheap and unearned. And I think that's part of the reason that Joel's death felt kind of unearned and undeserved, was because it was forced kind of clunkily, in my opinion, you know. But hopefully that makes sense as to what I mean. I'm not saying that literally just because they happen to end up in that situation, therefore it's bad. I'm not saying that. There's a lot more nuance to the perspective as far as I can tell. I feel sorry for the wolves. They just wanted to mind their own business, and some dude just intrudes on them when they can't even eat it. And then they can't even eat it. Oh, the wolves with, what was his name? I already forgot. Oh, I closed it. Yeah. Lupus something. Yeah. Thank you for the follow-up super chat, my friend. Yeah, broken. Thank you. Yeah, I just think that, you know, if you're going to kill off a beloved character, you need to be as rock solid as you possibly can. And that the way they handled that was not rock solid. Speaking of rock solid, real quick, shout out to Spine. I mentioned this actually right after Summer Games Fest, but there's a new trend with indie games where they go, our game is good, the algorithm just ignores us, and they go through that, and there's a few of these. Edenfall, as you can see here, is one, but I've actually played Spine, and if you like old school Batman Arkham games, this is like the game for you, it also has a free flow combat system where it's all about tying together combos, and so it plays very similarly to the old school Arkham games with combat, but way more gory, way more intense. I think they call it gun fu. Yeah, this is gun fu. It's actually pretty badass, and I had a lot of fun with it. So this is one to keep an eye on. The devs were super, super cool as well. I think they're from Cyprus, and they created their own like animation software and system for it. It's pretty ridiculous. It's pretty crazy. So yeah, Spine, keep an eye on that. How does it control? Very well, very well. Like I said, I was playing like a fairly early build of it, but I was pretty impressed by it. Pretty pleased. Pretty pleased. The Nomad, thank you for the membership re-up. Did you ever play The Last of Us 2 chronological mode? I've not done like a full playthrough. I booted it up and then I was like, oh, so this is where it starts? Okay. And then I got distracted by something. So I've not gone through it, but I'm interested in trying a full run. My problem is I just played it like earlier this year. So I need to give it another like 6 months or a year before I go back again. But it's going to be interesting to see how it works if it's literally just like one straight, like all the way through game. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It's all flashbacks for 2 hours. Yeah, literally. Yeah. What's Jor doing? I believe getting ready for Gamescom. I believe. Dances with wolves. More like runs away from wolves. They weren't that into the role play. Is freaking hilarious. Logan, thank you for the 5. I'm willing to bet money that Crimson Desert's console verification issues are because of the Series S, just like Black Myth. That very well could be. That could be it. If they can't get it running on the Series S to a good enough degree, and they're like, Phil, can we please get an override? Can you please let us release it and just not on Series S? Please. That wouldn't shock me. Would not shock me. Let's see. I read that one. Okay. Caught up there. Also with Serenity. Thank you for the sub over on Twitch. Luke, have you seen Mafia? The Old Country is getting an update. What are your thoughts? This is the link. Yeah, it's the one about the added modes that they're doing, right? Yeah, free ride modes and stuff. My understanding is that there's some data miners that looked into the code and found remnants and references to like races, horse races, car races and stuff that were inevitably cut from the game at some point. But since Mafia seems to be doing fairly well, they are choosing to greenlight extra spending to add those modes and stuff into the game, which is cool. I appreciate them doing that. That's pretty cool. Mafia Old Country's 9 out of 10 for me. Interesting, Thilanka. I struggle putting numbers to games because it's just so reductive to me. And usually people mean different things. Like some companies, when they say like 5 out of 10, they mean, no, it's average. It's okay. A lot of like Americans hear 5 out of 10 and they think like American grading system in school. And so they think that's an F. Like that is a failing grade. You did terribly. And so the number scale system is just not that helpful typically, which is why I tend to just try to explain verbally what I think of a game, and then you can fill in the blanks for what you think. Because if I call something a masterpiece, you kind of know what I mean. You can infer, oh, that's like a 10 out of 10 on my scale. Sure. You know, we are Americans, so everything is about us. Exactly. Yeah. Finally, somebody gets it. Finally, man. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how it kind of ages with time as people settle on the story and kind of think about it. Yeah, you'll see in the critique. I have a lot of thoughts on the story. A lot of them very, very good. And then some that are quite frustrated and annoyed, but you know, I'll go through all of that. OMG, you just cracked the code as to why women hate being called fives, even though that's average because they see it as a failure. It's just in the US, C's get degrees. C is like middle of the road, and the percentage score, like on the scale, a C is like a 70. So for most people who go to American schools, a 7 out of 10 is like average. You're middle of the pack. B's and A's are exceptional. D's and F's are subpar. And so when people hear like 5 out of 10s, some people mean that as perfectly in the middle of the scale, but that's not how a lot of Americans specifically think of it, which is the problem. And that's why I'm like, the ultimate goal of a review is to communicate what the reviewer thought of the game. And if you put a tag on it and it's like, I thought that this was 3 thumbtacks out of an apple, that doesn't do anybody any good. And certainly if you give it a score and then people are like, no, that's wrong because it's not that bad. And you're like, well, according to our scale, that score is not actually that bad. Already we're past the point. We should be talking about the game, not about the scoring scale and system, you know? Which drives me crazy. But it's really easy to just quickly understand 10 out of 10. Okay, it's amazing. 9 out of 10. Okay, it's really, really good. 8 out of 10. Okay, so it's really good. Okay. 7 out of 10. Okay, so we're getting into like good mid territory. Okay. Then you get in the 60s, and I think most people will dismiss it at that point. I give it 5 Todd Howards. I could do that. Drop the 10 scale. People clearly can't figure it out. Well, it's just literally that people mean different things by it. That's the problem. Like some people think, again, 7 out of 10 is like really good. For other scale systems, 7 out of 10 is like mid. It's just, and I know some of these outlets will have like, well, we have our own scale. So you can look up on our website to see what the scale represents. I'm like, cool. Nobody's going to do that. Like nobody is going to do that. So that's just not that helpful, you know? But anyway, let's do this. Let's talk about this one. I want to look at the new Crimson Desert gameplay. Is this the gameplay sequence that I played at Summer Games Fest? It might actually be. It kind of looks like it. Well, let's see. Okay. News. So Crimson Desert, that was just delayed to Q1 of 2026, just dropped 13 minutes of gameplay over on, shocker, IGN. We're gonna see how terribly they screwed up the capture. Max available is 4K 60. Okay, but let's see what they did here.
We have to hurry to support the marquee.
I think so. I don't see an IGN watermarked like logo on here at all. I think that this is just literally the raw capture straight from the developers at Pearl Abyss, which is the way you should do it. Give IGN the raw file and you just say, upload this. Don't do anything to it. Because they literally are incompetent when it comes to encoding video. But this actually looks decent. It is compressed pretty heavily. And I will say, when I tried the game at Summer Games Fest, it did have a lot of like artifacting from temporal upscalers, which you can see here. Like if we enhance, even with this 4K capture, you can see some of the like, I don't even know what to call it. It's this like checkerboarded pattern on the grass as it's trying to upscale it. So it just kind of does this like zigzag looking thing, this like hex pattern. It's something you'll see in a lot of games that use upscalers pretty aggressively, and it's something you'll see in a lot of Crimson Desert footage as well. But
the Duke sent me.
We were expecting you. This way.
Yeah, I
How's the
believe this is
situation?
the mission that we did at Summer Games Fest.
I've got the broad strokes.
It's all bad news, I'm afraid. The odds weren't in our favor to begin with, and now there's a mutiny within. There's a high chance the enemy will take the castle.
No.
If Marquis Lanford falls, then the entirety of Henan will be in danger.
Marshal, preparations are complete.
Understood.
Heard one of my men is on the front lines.
Indeed. My scouts say he's fighting in the keep.
I'd expect nothing less.
Marshal,
We've lost another outpost to the Black Bears.
I see. Greymane, your comrade is likely holding out in the keep with the Marquis.
I've got to get to him.
Going in alone, given the present situation, would be suicide. The enemy has seized our outposts and constructed watchtowers. Approaching won't be easy. If you must go now, you'll need to use the cannons to clear your path.
Cap.
Marshal, we've been waiting for you.
Yeah, here's another example of where you can see the really, really heavy use of upscalers. Like, it just starts to look really, oh my god, wrong button, really, really grainy, and you just lose all clarity. And this is a much better encoded video because you can tell it's still preserving all of this detail, but you know, if you're using heavy upscalers, there's just only so much you can do at the end of the day. And it's been my primary concern with Crimson Desert is how is it going to run? Like, when I played it at Summer Games Fest, and we'll talk about this as it goes on, the controls are a lot. Like, the controls are not really that intuitive, and that's going to get refined as they get closer to launch and they're responding to feedback. They already told us they made a bunch of changes to how this stuff worked, and you know, they got feedback, hey, this camera lock on should work this way, and so they made changes. So they're improving it still, and they're taking it to a lot of conventions for people to play, but the controls are not super easy. They're pretty tough to learn. But this is also the thing to remember, is that this sequence you're seeing is from much later in the game when you should already have a good amount of muscle memory. So just because the muscle memory is not there, it's going to feel less intuitive and more difficult to figure out. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to feel bad when you've played the game from start to finish and they introduce one new mechanic at a time and one new ability at a time to the point where you just slowly learn how to do it. The example I gave the other day was with like Ghost of Tsushima, the different stances. If you load straight into the Iki Island DLC and you try to pick up the controller and swap stances with enemies that are constantly changing their weapons and their own stances, it's going to be really, really difficult and probably feel pretty clunky. But it's literally just because you haven't got the muscle memory yet. Yeah, this is what we did at Summer Games Fest as well. They have this physics system so you can launch cannons as part of these sieges. Oh, they cut that really short. And then this, so this was subtle. I wonder if it's going to come up again. Yeah. So this is an earlier mission where you have to pick up this flag and put it into the post. And this is going to be important later because they're teaching you a skill that's going to be used in a boss fight. But you don't even realize you're being trained for the boss fight in that moment, which is just kind of cool. But you fly around, and this is where you can see like the sheer volume of what they're trying to do. They have a ton of enemies on screen and being simulated at any given time. Just look at the mini map in the bottom left. I mean, it's kind of crazy how much stuff they've got going. But particle effects out the wazoo. Lots of smoke effects. Some pretty wild movement and blood effects. Transition to nighttime, even more fights going on. And this is where I think the upscaler issue and the particle effects, I don't even know what you call it. I think I've called it before particle effect fetishism. Because, you know, some of these studios, they love their particle effects. You know, all the sparkles, all of the glitter, all of it. Just, yes. How much should we add? Yes. This is where it can become a problem, though, is that upscalers struggle with like small, smooth gradations of color mixed with particle effects, moving quickly with unpredictable camera movements. In other words, upscalers really struggle with nighttime sequences and fights where the camera's moving a lot unpredictably because you're moving around fighting people, and there's lots of particle effects. So when I played it at Summer Games Fest, this is where like detail started to get lost. And it looks like in this capture, it's retained a lot more, which is encouraging because it means they've continued to make optimization improvements, which again is exactly what you'd hope to see. I pressed the wrong button again. It's exactly what you'd hope to see. yeah, they have these different enhancements for the bow and for your weapons and stuff so that you can apply them kind of on the fly depending on who you're fighting. But even there, if we see the camera zooms out, look at the mini map on the bottom. Look how many enemies are just in this small area. Like they're simulating all of this all at the same time. They're all running around all the way over here on the map. There's all sorts of other enemies fighting out that you can see in the distance and fly to very quickly. So there's a lot going on. And bear in mind, this is all in their own proprietary engine too. This ain't no Unreal Engine stuff. Boss fight. Okay. There's some dude begging for money over there during the boss fight. So he takes out the boss. We go in there. We talk to the guy. He's not doing too great. We help him out. Then we're going to blow up that whole thing. It blows up. Super cool. Love it.
Oh, we got those fuckers good. Thanks to you.
Happy to help.
Great, man. We've been looking for you.
And then we are fighting within the castle itself. So this is something that apparently they'll do repeatedly throughout the game. They have these big siege fights where you are literally besieging a city. And it's really cool. Huge set pieces. Then also massive fights with hundreds and hundreds of enemies on screen that you're chopping through. And it's pretty intense. It's pretty intense. You know, they said that the normal gameplay is not like this. This is like a big inflection point within the story and within certain moments of the game. Typically, you're going to be like exploring, or you might go and do a side quest where it ends with a boss fight and that's it. But they're like, these massive scale battles are supposed to be special, and it's not like this is the whole game, to be clear.
You're alive. I'll take care of the traitor. All right. I'll protect my men beyond the wall.
And we're right back in it. And then this is the boss fight. This is the boss fight.
You're a hard one to kill, Grey Mane. Still aiding that lout, Stefan Lanford. Then this is your hand.
And we're right into it. And this boss fight is tied to a gimmick, like I mentioned earlier, with the picking up of the post and the flag to set it down. And it works well if you know the button controls. More on that in a second. Is it going to read it? Is it going to read it? Okay, I'll go back to your super chat in just a second because I want to refer to it. So when I did this demo and I got to this boss fight, the lady who was helping me play it was very, very nice. Very, very good. But she mixed up like a couple of the buttons. I forget if it was like R2 or L2 or if it was R1 or R2. It was something like that. But basically she was like, oh yeah, so you pick up the post, the pillar, and then you're going to swing it at the boss and you're going to attack him by pressing R1 or whatever it was. So I kept picking up the pillar, tapping R1, and then it wouldn't attack him and he'd get up and be fine. And I was like, oh, is it bugged? Is something happening? Like, it's fine if it's a bug. We're like months and months out from release. I just like, what's going on? And we tried multiple waves of the boss. We went through like 3-4 cycles of the boss fight before finally I just was like, I wonder if and I just tried pressing a different button, and then it worked and it actually dealt the damage. Because you'll see he'll get kind of incapacitated here in a second, and then he's going to pick up a pillar and hit him with it. Okay. Almost. Then he drops. And you have to pick up the pillar just like you picked up the flag. And then you have to press R1. I think she was saying press R2 or something, or L1. And so I was trying to do it with the wrong button. But if you press the right button, it does this. Skadoosh, and deals a ton of damage, which is just kind of fun. It's like bringing back full circle the picking up the pole from earlier, which is always cool to see subtle teaching of mechanics when players don't even realize they're being taught something. But speaking of the upscaler stuff, because we had a super chat from AWNNN. Thank you for the very generous 10 Canadian super chat. I feel like the upscaler situation is getting out of control. Wuchang ran at 540p at the lowest, and the guys at DF pushing for DLSS and ray tracing makes it worse. The growing pain sounds like cope. So one of the excuses for a lot of these, like the reliance on upscalers, is that it's going to allow us to get to normalized ray tracing, which does greatly improve the quality of the lighting in games and the dynamics you can have within scenes. It makes, in theory, development even faster because you don't have to carefully light scenes and then bake it all in. Like, I get why they like the idea of ray tracing. And the idea is that upscalers allow us to use ray tracing and stuff, even though right now it's not anywhere close to as efficient or practical as like rasterized rendering. And so the performance issues are a growing pain, but DLSS helps to alleviate some of that. And so is FSR and all these other techniques. And that's fine. Like, growing pains are fine so long as eventually they stop. You know, like if you eventually grow to the point where now you don't have any pains and you're just grown, then it's okay. The problem is now it feels like a lot of companies are using upscalers to hit performance targets. They're not hitting the performance targets and then using upscalers to even further enhance the fidelity and what's possible. And you can see here, like, there's all sorts of kind of fine detail that's flickering. Come on. When I go frame to frame, and it's all of this like ghosting that you see all around the sharp bits of metal that's like trailing it. You see that? It makes it look almost like he's glowing and glittering when he's not. It's just shiny armor. So it just doesn't really look quite right. You know, and it looks ever so slightly off. It still looks good, don't get me wrong. Like, this is still a visually impressive game, but it doesn't look quite as good as I think it could if you were running just at native, you know? And so I think the frustration with upscalers and stuff is certainly justified. And a great example of a company that did this right was with Warhorse with KCD2. They put out their spec sheet and they're like, oh, no. We optimized for you playing it natively without upscalers. Upscalers just give you extra performance, which is like, yes, please. Thank you. Because otherwise, like you said, you get into situations where like Wuchang runs at 540p in the year of our Lord and Savior, Todd Howard, 2025. Like, if you went back 10 years and you told somebody, hey, next generation's going to be crazy, dude. We're going to get these games. They're massive. They run at 540p, but like we can stretch them and upscale them so they look better. People be like, what? Like, what are we doing? I understand some of the stuff with like ray reconstruction is genuinely unbelievable. Like, it's crazy. If you've not tried ray reconstruction and like overdrive rendering and stuff on Cyberpunk, for example, it'll blow your mind. It really is magical. But that is one game that has been very, very carefully optimized by NVIDIA and CDPR to showcase ray traced features. Most games end up in situations kind of like this, where they just, you know, there's just artifacting and weird remnants. And like here, I think it gets really bad with the chainmail. As you can see here, as I tag forward. Like, it just looks grainy and off. It's like, and this, to be clear, is not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a deal. You can still play the game and have a great time. I want to be very, very clear about this. This doesn't necessarily mean like game bad because grainy. Like, that's not what we're saying. But it is fair to point out that this is a consistent problem industry-wide for sure. And my hope has been for a while that they would continue to make improvements to get past the reliance on upscalers to hit performance targets. But it seems like they still are having to rely on upscalers pretty heavily, even at this stage of development. And it was supposed to release this year. Now it's, of course, early next year. And I was just hoping that they would be at the point where we'd be getting some trailers that looked, you know, native or close to native, and like, or even just equivalent of like DLSS quality mode. But I still feel like we're largely seeing stuff running on DLSS performance effectively, and that's just frustrating because it probably means that this is not going to run super well on most people's hardware. If you have a 4090, a 5090, whatever, yeah, you can brute force your way through it and it'll run well enough for you because you just can plow through any lack of optimization. But 99.9% of people do not have a $1,500, $1,600, $1,700 graphics card because they're not crazy like me. So it's unrealistic to be like, well, just spend more on your PC and then you can get good performance. I think that's silly. But like, this is not like so blurry that it's like unacceptable. I think that like Star Wars Survivor, that was pretty bad. Star Wars Jedi Survivor, I think is what the full title was. That one was genuinely so poorly optimized that it was kind of game breaking for the first like handful of weeks. But this is very, very playable, and I played it and thought it was very playable. The one thing that you'll see here though is the camera difficulties. I think one of the comments even said the camera will most likely be the hardest enemy we face, TBH, which is fair. You'll see that in this previous moment, he had the dot on the boss. My understanding is that they have a combat lock on and they also have a camera lock on. They are not the same thing. So in most games, like a Soulsborne game, the lock on for the camera is the lock on for combat. You press the right stick, it locks onto the boss, and then all of your attacks will aim at that point and your camera will lock on to that point. In this game, at least at this point, it seems like they are two separate things. So people will lock on with the combat lock on to lock on their attacks, and you know, if they're using the bow, it'll automatically snap there, things like that. But the camera will still be free roaming and getting stuck on stuff, and it can have problems like that. So if you want to lock on the camera, that's an additional button input to lock on the camera. So that seems to be the problem and the distinction. I had problems with this when I played the game. I mentioned it in my initial impressions video after playing it back in June. And the devs actually, it was funny. I didn't realize we were staying at the same hotel. And we were down like at the bottom where it's like the lobby of the hotel, and next to it is the elevator for the whole tower, because it's the hotel is there, but it's also like partially an apartment building and everything. So there's a separate, almost a lobby just for the elevators. And we were going out of there because we were going to go out and get dinner or something. And we ran into the devs and the people from the PR team for Crimson Desert. And they're like, yeah, so we saw your video. And I was like, oh God, uh-oh, did I say something wrong? What happened? And they said, oh, no. We just wanted you to know that whole thing with like the camera lock on, there actually is a way to do this. It's two separate, and they explained what I just explained. It's like, oh, that's kind of cool. That's cool. And shout out to them for watching the video and like immediately being like, hey, we have a fix for that. We have a fix for that, which is cool. But I still think Crimson Desert looks great. Again, whenever you have a game where like your primary like frustration is it looks too good to be true, and then also like I just hope they can continue to polish it so it runs this well for everybody. That's a good problem to have, because it means what you're seeing is exciting you, what you're seeing is looking really good. You just want them to deliver what you're seeing. And if they can do that, I think they'll have a pretty big success. Look at this. Dude. That's hardcore. That's hardcore, dude. Oh. Oh. Anyway. So I'm really excited to see this. I think it's looking really good. I think like maybe some of the effects is that they're doing some light ray tracing at like quarter resolution on the metal, and that's what's also making it look kind of grainy. I'm not sure. I'm sure you'd get used to it when you start playing it, but it's just noticeable when you're watching the trailers and stuff. But I'm thoroughly excited. Again, another thing that I still just don't know about is the writing quality. Because we've seen little snippets like this where the dialogue seems fairly well voice acted and delivered and everything, but the overarching narrative, what they've written for the story and stuff, we just don't know yet. Because we don't know. We don't know. And that's often a weak point of like massive games is the writing. So that's one to keep an eye on. But overall, in terms of gameplay, it looks freaking massive and fantastic. Look at this. So watch this. I want you to just appreciate the data streaming that's needed to pull off something like this at this fidelity level. Like, you want to know why Fallout and Bethesda, like why they've never really liked doing vehicles? They'll give you a horse in Skyrim that runs as fast as a person sprinting, but never any faster than that. The reason that they can't is because data streaming in those games is so slow that they just literally can't stream the data for the rest of the world in fast enough to let you do it. It just doesn't work. But with this game, like, they're just seamlessly like, yeah, look at this crazy amount of detail. It's why also like Tears of the Kingdom was so ridiculously impressive, because they just casually are, look at this. It's like a zip line kind of thing. Yeah, they're just like letting you go from map to map, like in the sky, down to the earth, down into the subterranean level. It's really crazy. Then climb up on top of the tower, and then the demo is over. Sound design is really good too. I want a spiral staircase in my house. Is that an unreasonable thing to want? I feel like that's a life goal. Like, look at how massive this is. This is just one camera pan, but you see the massive castle, of course. But even off in the distance back here, there's like the whole town and village, and down in the valley, there's another small, you can barely see it. There's like a village back here as well. There's so much in this game, dude. It's a game made, a single player game made by guys that primarily have their experience in the like MMORPG realm. And so they know how to handle scale for sure. Oh, excuse me. I didn't get coffee today. I made a mistake. Stupid me. Anyway, Crimson Desert, it's still looking really, really good. I just hope that they can continue to polish it up and refine it so that we all get to experience it in that level, whether you're playing on a 3060 or a 4090, 5090, whatever. Fingers crossed. We'll keep an eye on it. They delayed it, so they should have more time to do it.
$9.99 through Super Chat.
Thank you.
Hey, Luke. I plan on getting my first PC.
Hell yeah.
It's going to be a ROG G700 with a 5070 GPU.
Ooh.
I am pretty excited. Is FrameGen worth using? And will it be able to...
Yeah, a 5070 Ti, you should be rocking and rolling pretty well for like 99% of stuff. The frame generation stuff is really, really impressive, but it's a big but. You need VRR on your monitor because it's spitting out frames whenever it's able to generate them. So if you don't have VRR, it's going to tear. You'll get lots of screen tearing. So if you have a variable refresh rate monitor, it can just display the frame when it gets it from the GPU, and then it doesn't tear. But if you don't have a VRR monitor, it'll tear like crazy if you're using frame generation. So just double check your monitor, see if you have that. If you have a monitor that has it, you're set. If you don't, you might not need to upgrade your monitor. You might be totally fine to just play without frame generation, but just be aware that that is a whole thing that you got to be aware of, is screen tearing with frame generation. Like, I can't use, people will ask in videos, they're like, why aren't you using frame generation in your game capture and stuff? I'm like, it's because it tears like crazy on any capture card. Like, because capture cards are not variable refresh rate. They're capturing 60 frames a second. You know, whenever that time ticks, they capture a frame. And so if it's getting frames at different times, you get crazy screen tearing, and it just doesn't work. Are we still doing the giveaway? Hell yeah, dude. You want to see how many people entered, dude? It's crazy. We are at 43,000 entries, almost 44,000 entries for the August PS5 Pro giveaway. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I don't know what I was expecting, but that's ridiculous. So thank you all for entering. So we all have good odds. Yeah. I have 53 of them. Hell yeah, Logan. Yeah, you do. Don't tell me the odds. Yeah, some people will only have one entry. Some people will have 10. Some people will have 30 or 50 or whatever. It literally just depends on how many of these additional activities you complete. But yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. We're going to do the giveaway at the end of the month. Or I guess technically I think I set it to end accepting entries at midnight on the 31st, which is a Sunday. So that works perfect. So on the 1st, I can do a stream and we can do the drawing or whatever to pick the winner live on stream, which will be cool. That's not the international giveaway, right? No, this is literally just US residents, which if you read the rules, just for anybody trying to go tricky, if you lied and said you were in the US, but you're not in the US, like you still don't get it. Okay. Even if your name is drawn, because we said it's only US, because if you live in another country, a US PlayStation 5 Pro will not work in your country. It is region locked, so you wouldn't even be able to use it if you got it. I don't make the rules. I'm not the one that did it. You know, I didn't region lock consoles, but we're gonna find ways to do giveaways for international viewers as well. So don't you worry. We'll take care of you guys. What I want to do, and I think the easiest way, this was recommended by somebody that I was talking to who's done international giveaways. They were like, no, the way you do it is by going and finding like a company that has international operations, and then have them be your partner for the giveaway, and then they can ship it to that person. So you partner with, like, I don't know who it would be, like some sponsor like NordVPN, and NordVPN pays for, you know, the PlayStation 5 Pro in Brazil or something, because they operate there, and so they can buy it with their local like operation in that country and then send it, which I think is the way to do it. What is the point of region locking consoles? To make sure that they can make currency adjusted revenue from the people in that country. So if you're in Australia, you pay a lot more because your currency has kind of turned into monopoly money. I'm just saying it like it is. What do you want from me? I didn't do it. That's quite rude. Should have better currency. I don't know. Sorry. I don't make the rules, dude. I didn't make your currency. I don't do it. I'm not doing stuff. PlayStation consoles not region locked. I'm in Argentina. Consoles are imported from the US. Ooh, naughty. When I looked it up, it was saying that They're region locked in many countries. Maybe in Argentina they're not. But if that's not correct, and if it is just a total free for all, cool. We'll just do the international giveaway that way. But I don't want to do a giveaway and like send somebody a console and then it's like, oh, this is 120 volt. I can't use it. Because then they are pissed because they didn't get the thing they thought they were getting. They just have a paperweight. And then the people that could have won it and could have used it are also kind of robbed of theirs. You know, it's too bad. Yeah, Canada, we should be able to still do US and Canada. I think that should work just fine. It's the big international stuff that things can get tricky, you know. I feel bad. Back in the day, we were selling these like stickers. If you guys remember the Khaleesi stickers and like Just Wow stickers and stuff, and I would sign them. You order them for like $5, and then I'd throw them in an envelope and ship them off to you anywhere in the world. It was just a nice, cool way of doing something, like a fun little merch run. But I still feel bad. There was a guy, I think he lived in, where was it? It was like Israel or Iran or something over there. It was in the Middle East, and he ordered it. And dude, I sent that letter. A month or two goes by. It shows back up in my mailbox, return to sender. It went all the way. They couldn't find the address, and they sent it all the way back. And the envelope looked like it had been through a meat shredder. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll put it in a new envelope. And I'll try again. I'll double check the address. The address was right. I was like, I don't know what else to do. I tried Googling it, finding like the Google version of the address, putting that on the envelope, send it off. 2 months goes by. It shows back up. Never delivered. It's like, I feel bad. But like, what am I supposed to do? I literally don't know where to send this damn thing. You know? I live in Uruguay. Same thing. We only get US PS5s. There's no Latin American PS5 alternative. Well, I mean, if it works, it works. You know? If it works, it works. The problem is if it doesn't work. You're out of mana. What were you supposed to do? Exactly. Deliver it to yourself, man. Yeah, at that point I basically was. I was just doing that over and over again. I have an Etsy shop, and yeah, international shipping is hell. Well, it's really tricky. Like it was tricky when we were shipping stickers because, you know, not all countries use the same conventions for like addressing things. They don't use the same formats and stuff. So you have to make sure that you get that exactly right. And then if you're at like shipping a console like that, you have to declare that. That's at a point where it's worth enough that you'd have to declare it and like insure it in case it gets damaged or lost along the way. And I don't, it's tricky. It's really tricky. So the way I've thought about doing it is with like a $500, or I guess it would be $700, like PlayStation Store gift card or something like that. But I don't know. Man. Tis tricky. Send it to me. I'll take it from there. Good. That's awesome. Reminds me of Shadow of Mordor a little bit. Oh, the combat maybe? I could see that. Let's see. Quentley something. I think Quentley. Thank you for the 5. Can't wait for Chronos Love to hear those metal boots clanking and breathing sounds like somebody stumbling in a rusty dive suit. Silent Hill F. We'll see. Yeah, dude. We should have some good like suspense thriller horror games coming out this year. Should be. Bite Size.
That's most definitely what's up.
Rip Ozzy and homeboy Scotty. Better not be streaming again, boy. Don't make me send Jessica Boyle. How dare you? Love, praise, Todd. Play Skate 4. Praise be to Todd, indeed. May he spread his detail upon you, and may it be 16 times. Also,
shout out to the chess club.
Indeed. Good to see you, my friend. Hope you're doing well. Mercurial Fung, thank you for the 5. Hey, Luke, is the Expanse Deluxe pre-order a steal in this day and age of $80 back, or $80 video game releases? I mean, we don't, I think The Expanse looks good. Owlcat makes really good stuff. I think Owlcat very well could end up being like the next Larian, where I think they just need that one big mainstream hit and they'll explode. 5 years ago, people were like, oh yeah, Larian, they make those really niche RPGs, right? The top-down RPGs. And then they had Baldur's Gate 3. They explode into mainstream appeal. I think Owlcat could be in that same spot. And it could be The Expanse that blows them into that stratosphere. So possibly. But we don't know much about the game at this point. It's still very much a question mark, you know. But I think that they really could be on a good track with that. You get your game, I can't read. You get your name in the credits for the $60 edition, I think. Oh, that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. I like that. Luke, what do you think of the benefits and downsides of using your own engine? Benefits are you get to make it exactly what you want it to be, and you get to tweak it, and you don't have to pay royalties to somebody else, which is really nice. You also can have a game that doesn't look like everything else, which is also really nice. Downsides are it's freaking expensive as hell. One of the things that I think it was CDPR was saying, they were like, when we were running our own engine, you have to remember, we basically were a software company making a game engine. And then we were also a game development studio. And he's like, we were really good at this. But in order to be like competitive in this, we had to also be world class at this. And that's just really difficult because they're not the same thing. Making an extremely impressive game engine is an accomplishment in itself that very few companies are able to pull off internationally. And then also making world-class video games is also an incredibly difficult task that very few companies achieve across the globe. So trying to do both at the same time is just freaking difficult. It's just hard and it's expensive. And if you have one flop, it makes the entire thing wasted and everybody loses their jobs. So at some point, it just makes more sense to let Epic, that has all that Fortnite money that they invested in to build the Unreal Engine into what it is today, they will manage all of the software company. Like they'll manage that development and optimization stuff for you, and then you just make the games, which is what they prefer. Or you could be like Bethesda and then have your own engine and then just like not fix it. Problem solved. Best of both worlds. Talking to Todd about this. He's like, oh, yeah, well, I mean, yeah, we could have like an engineering team to like fix the engine and fix those core problems with it, make it competitive with modern engines. And Todd's like, what? Why would we do that? What? No. Luke. Use modders. We'll have them fix it. Oh, got it, Todd. Sorry, Todd. Luke, thank you for the 2 thoughts on what you'd like to see in Cyberpunk 2. I want to see a hell of a lot more life sim elements. I think that could be really, really cool. I would love to see like a hardcore Cyberpunk game that takes elements of like survival games. So think of like KCD2 and the way they have that structured and set up, but in a Cyberpunk universe. Adding in like all of the extra components of like regular drug use, of the body modifications and stuff like that. Simulation elements like needing to buy your own apartment and manage that. Could be really, really crazy. Really cool. And then you just bring the same writing quality and cinematic quality. Ooh, baby. We're locked and loaded. Other smaller minutia and stuff. I think that, honestly, I think third person might make more sense than first person. I understand why they went first person for shooting. First person shooters can often just feel better, but it felt weird that they had all of these like cosmetics and visual customization elements, and then you literally only see your hands until the ending cutscenes, or do both. Yeah, you could do both, kind of like Bethesda has done in the past. But it's always weird to me when they're like carefully customize your character and then it's first person. And it's like, okay, so I can't see anything I customized. Yeah, unless you go up to a mirror. Yeah, you go up to the mirror and look at yourself. You're like, what happened to me? V, what's wrong with you? I played a lot of Cyberpunk. Victor, thank you for that. What do you think Nintendo will or should do after peak Zelda games to reinvent it? I would love a mix of fantasy and sci-fi maybe, but open world feels like it should be a lock. Probably is a lock. I think that they will try to reinvent it again after Tears of the Kingdom, because that was kind of a perfection of that formula. But I honestly don't know. I don't know. I would not have guessed that Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom would have worked as well as they did, but man, those games are fantastic. And I'm sure they're going to come out swinging with something nobody saw coming. You know, it's really easy to just be like, yeah, take take Zelda and take it fully open world. There's a lot more going on than just that. You know, it's way, way more complicated than that to get that working. But I don't know. I have to think about it. Did you hear Wuchang got censored? Yeah, I read the article, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jackson. When I hear censored, I think like, oh, they're covering up the booba. But no, they were like changing some of the boss fights, is my understanding. And they weren't actually like censoring like the visuals in that way. They were changing like entire boss fights, and they were changing enemy behaviors, making some enemies not attack you anymore and others could attack you. I don't know. When I read the article, granted I read it at like 1 a.m. last night in bed, and so I was a little delirious, so I'm not sure. But when I read the article, it definitely sounded like it didn't sound like censorship in the same way that most people would use the term. It sounded more like they nerfed it. Yeah. I was like, if people are just reading the headlines, I think they will take something very different from this than what seems to actually be the case. You can still be upset that they nerfed it, absolutely, but it doesn't sound like they censored it, you know? Anyway, correct me if I'm wrong, because like I said, I read the article late last night. I very well could just be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was saying, that it's just a lot of that stuff. Okay. Why do I have so many notifications? Damn. Okay, I wanted to show you this real quick. This isn't even like a full segment or anything. I just wanted to show you this. I saw this. It looked cool. I got an email about this. They're like, check out our new game. It's called Secret of the Weepstone. It's all hand-drawn.
In his half-waking state, he mumbles incoherently of Weepstone Keep.
Isn't that kind of cool?
Are there any among you willing to delve into that forsaken place to find the source of Byron's torment?
Isn't that kind of cool?
You there? Who are you that dares enter this sacred place?
How cool is that? How cool is that? What they describe it as is Secret of the Weepstone is a black and white dungeon crawling love letter to old school role-playing games. Build your party of unlikely common folk from common villagers to battle-worn adventurers and explore the keep to discover the mysterious source of Byron's suffering. There are no heroes here. Depending on your dice rolls, you may triumph and level up or perish ignominiously, leaving the rest of your party with unique mortal favors to help the survivors brave the depths. Will you be able to unpick Weepstone Keep's dangerous puzzles and secrets, or will your story end there, just like countless other adventurers? I don't know, I think in the email they described it as hand-drawn, but I could be mistaken. Yeah, in a hand-drawn black and white dungeon crawler RPG inspired by classic D&D's D&D of the 80s. That's how they describe it. Hand-drawn black and white dungeon crawler inspired by RPGs of the 80s. Super cool. Very unique, right? Very unique. I'm into it though. I'm into it. So shout out to them. Shout out to them. That looks pretty fire. I don't know why. It just hurts my brain. I could see that if it's some art styles do that where it's just like my head hurts. My head hurts. What is this? Oh, the First Descendant is posting AI videos on their page. They've since deleted it. They posted this.
2P update of the F2P looter shooter masterpiece, The First Descendant has launched spectacularly. In it, you play as a Descendant, ride a hoverbike to explore the brand, new area of Axiom Plains, and can also team up with teammates to fight against the boss Wall Crasher side by side.
I mean, that's not even like a good AI video. Like the voice is all funky and
recreated visual effects and animations to fight. Download now and you can claim free rewards. Click the screen and get the game immediately.
Yeah. So Moxie says this post has since been deleted. Glad they got the message, but it was indeed real. He actually got the screenshot of it. I think what they did is they probably hired a company to like make them shorts and make them TikToks and stuff. And the company made an AI one and was like, yeah, this is good enough. And tried to pass it off. If it was in-house, that's like ridiculous and unacceptable because that's one of the worst AI videos I've seen. I mean, there are some that are like kind of believable and you have to kind of look twice because you're like, is it? I can't tell. But that one was bad. That's a bad one. It's so rubbery. Yeah. I mean, granted, a lot of TikTokers do talk like that. They kind of talk like this and they're always yelling. That's the giveaway that it's fake. It's on TikTok and they're not yelling. Now, if he were yelling, that could be the giveaway. In the First Descendant, I just played a boss fight and it blew my mind. Wait, I need hand gestures. In the First Descendant, you can fight bosses and it'll blow your mind. There. Now I need more RGB. Lots of RGB. Lots of RGB. I need a necklace. Apparently that's the new thing is like 20-year-olds who want to feel like they're 15. They wear gold necklaces and then like baggy clothes. I'm told that is the key. Am I right about this? Right about that? Also, shout out to all these beautiful girls. Sean Kingston is going to prison for $1 million fraud scheme. I don't know. This just popped up, so there's that. Let's see. Taylor Swift, ladies and gentlemen. Control yourself. This is how I flush out the gooners in chat. I can post this picture and then I just see how well you guys behave. Okay, yep, boom, caught. Red-handed, there, right there. Found him. Got you. Nothing was as bad as when we were trying to watch those Monster Hunter trailers. And dude, that one girl came on screen and the whole chat, you guys made me look like I hosted some sort of weird, I don't even know, cult compound. Because the whole chat, this whole thing, all of it was just, milk please. It was, I look back at the stream clip that Jacob cut together. And even in the comment section, people were like, bro. People were like, guys, come on. What are we doing? Oh, anyway. Milk please is insane work. Dude, every once in a while, somebody will come out swinging with something. You're just like, why? I just, yeah, wretched. Just wretched. Anyway, let's talk about this. Engineer Doge, thank you for the sub, by the way, my friend. Thank you. And also Devin, thank you for the sub with Prime. And Hunter.exe, thank you also for the sub. Thank you. Happy Friday indeed, my friends. Thank you. Okay, read that one. Okay. Oh, thank you, Sir Guy. Thank you. Okay. News, Emma. So Jackson Cabrera, got you, my friend. Thank you for the $2 super chat. Asked, did you hear Wuchang got censored? I did see this article, and I read it late last night in a feverish, half asleep, half awake dream at like 2 a.m. or something because I couldn't sleep. We got these like caffeine-free, 0-calorie Baja Blasts for a party we hosted, and nobody drank them, so they've just been sitting in the fridge. So I drank one. They're not caffeine-free at all. They are sugar-free, 0-calorie, whatever, but oh my God, it's not caffeine-free. And I found out last night as I just laid in bed trying to sleep, just wide awake. But it made me better at Battlefield. I will say that. I was playing the Battlefield beta and I was like, oh, I'm actually doing pretty good. And I think it's because I was locked in, pupils dilated, ready to go. Anyway, I read this article and honestly, I feel like this is, if it's what I recall, I feel like we're using words in a very clickbaity fashion, but I'll explain what I mean. Because it's described as Wuchang Fallen Feathers fans celebrate owning the disc after controversial update censors the game. And when I think censorship in the context of video games, I think of like, you had a character that was talented and then you cover up the talent. I feel like you have maybe something in your game that just swings low, sweet chariots with quality, and then you pin up the quality. You know what I mean? Yeah, you get what I'm saying? I'm picking up what I'm stepping in. Know what I'm saying? Peter has a beard. Also, thank you for the sub over on Twitch. Thank you, my friend. But this apparently is not that at all. It's been called a lot of things. Souls, slop, gooner bait, a surprisingly good game. You can now add censored, quote unquote, to the list after the recent 1.5 update made controversial changes to the game, seemingly to quell backlash from some fans in China. A few diehard fans are now relieved they bought the game on disc, knowing they can always access the original version of the action game that released last month. What did they do? Did they cover everybody up in burlap? What happened? Well, the newest patch arrived earlier this week and made a bunch of changes, most of which seemed innocuous enough. Some were enthusiastically welcomed, like a sped-up healing animation. It's a good thing to have. The ability to cancel out of recovery animation by dodging. That's a good thing to have. Improved iframes when recovering from getting knocked down. That's also cool. Tightening up the combat and stuff like that. I love that. Other changes were more ominous than they first appeared, though. Quote, added dialogues for some NPC to complete some plots. Okay. Not sure what that means. We will further optimize the exhaustion animations in the future to improve the plot performance. Okay. Not sure what that means. What was developer Lin Z talking about? Well, it soon became clear, as shared on social media by Souls aficionado and early advocate for Wuchang, Lance McDonald. Quote, what they mean is they made it so you can no longer kill any historically significant bosses or NPCs.
Caleb donated $10 through Super Chat.
Oh my God.
Remember when your dad enjoyed the talented ladies in Egypt back in the 80s?
Yeah, dude, they built the pyramids. You think that they're not talented? They had to motivate those guys to drag those blocks somehow. Just, it makes sense. Makes sense. A lot of talent went into those pyramids. Tell you what, a lot of talent. Thank you for the 10. Very, very generous. Thank you. So okay. So they are they changed it so any historically significant bosses or NPCs can't be killed. Now they just get exhausted and like relax after the fight and talk to you. So I'm guessing this is like in Starfield when you try to kill like a quest giver and they just drop to all fours and like, I need a minute. And you're like, I just shot you with a bazooka in the face. I'm like, I just need a second. And then after a few minutes, they stand up and talk to you. And it's like, John didn't like that. I'm guessing that's what they're doing here. Historical figures that previously died within the fictional game, like Liu Wenxu and Liu Chengin. I'm so sorry. I'm from Colorado. What did you expect? My pronunciation is going to be bad. And Emperor Chongzhen are now live live on. They can't be killed. Let's see. Daniel said, yep, the game isn't even officially released in China. It doesn't have a publishing license. Too much of its content goes against what's allowed to be depicted in games in China anyway. This is really weird that the devs would just falter like this to vocal minorities. Lance replied, people got mad you can kill the late stage Ming Dynasty Dragon Emperor in game, but he was literally dead by this point in history and you kill a horrific zombie version of him to stop his resurrection. Anyone offended by that is wild, and having him survive now ruins the plot. It is wild to like retcon the plot of your game in a patch. Like, imagine at the end of Last of Us Part 2, if they patched it and they're like, oh no, now Ellie drowns the shit out of Abby. They're like, yeah, just we updated it. Made it a little better. Imagine if they did that. It'd be ridiculous. Yeah, W's in chat. But that's basically what they're doing here, is they're changing it. So previously a boss that you killed as like the high point climax of the story now just gets exhausted and like talks to you after the fight. That's pretty stupid. That's pretty dumb. Okay. It still doesn't sound like, again, I feel like if you put this picture on screen and you say it's censored, I think people will assume something else is happening, but I get what they mean. Yeah, the CCP patch. It feels like they are, I don't know if they're trying to get a publishing license in China and they're trying to tone it down so that they can get that, because in China you can't depict their historical figures that way, I guess. But yeah, this is crazy. McDonald continued, like actual censorship due to pressure from Chinese players who are upset about being able to kill historically significant characters from the end of the Ming Dynasty. Crazy to see it. Players are reporting that the quote-unquote pray gesture has been removed that you previously learned from the Portuguese Christian character in the game. So they removed like the ability to pray as a gesture. I mean, like, talk about snowflakes, man. Like, what the hell are we doing? Like, this is crazy. This is crazy. A series of Ming soldiers in Chapter 4 have also been changed to not fight the player, making a previously challenging section now a breeze because they literally don't fight you. What are we doing? What are we doing? Like, this is crazy, dude. They're literally like redoing entire chunks of the game, seemingly to just appease a vocal minority. But I guess maybe the argument is just that their hope is to get the publishing license in China, and that represents another like 2 million copies, maybe more. And so they're like, we just have to release in China. So let's just get it fixed up. And this is what their lawyers are telling them to do. And so they're trying to do that so they can release in China, and they're hoping that then they can make a lot more money. Maybe that's pretty much all it is. Combined with some more general nerfs to enemy armor and various boss fights, players have been revolting against patch 1.5 on Steam and Reddit, where some have accused the Wuchang subreddit mods of deleting complaints Quote, after 80 hours on Steam, I pulled the trigger for console, one fan wrote. Long live Wuchang 1.0. Some players are currently trying to roll back updates on Steam by editing files. Not everyone's raging against the latest update as performance continues slowly but surely to improve on PC. It was pretty rough at first. But that does mean that Wuchang's Steam review rating is finally recovering. Not quite. Complaints of frame rate crashes have been replaced by review bombing over alleged censorship. For its part, Lindsay hasn't said why it changed Wuchang's story. Update 1.5 went live on PS5 and Xbox Series X and S earlier today when this was written. It looks like it was posted yesterday. It is kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy to literally change the plot of your game in a patch. That's kind of ridiculous. And then to like literally also updating it, removing entire sections of the game where now enemies don't attack you. So it goes from being incredibly difficult to incredibly easy. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, it's kind of lame, kind of sucks, but I think it literally is being done just because they're trying to get access to release in China, and that represents enough cash that it's worth redoing all of this. So they're like, just go along with it. Go along with it. Who cares? Whatever. That's wild, dude. It's wild. I mean, again, I still think that the word censorship, at least in the title, makes me think of something else. But I do agree, after reading it, it does sound like it is being censored specifically to try and appeal to the Chinese regulators who would allow them to sell the game in China. So it would technically fit the definition. Maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I just hear censorship and I'm like, so boobs? But that's not what it is. Got to get my head out of the gutter. I'm the problem. I'm the problem. I think that's the takeaway. But this is wild. Again, like literally think of any other game where they change this and like, yeah, so the big boss fight, yeah, he lives now. Sorry, not sorry. Be ridiculous. Everybody be like, what the hell are you doing? And it would be fair to bring that up. Let me see Wuchang's Steam page. It's sitting at mixed. Censorship changed story bits that don't make any sense to comfort fragile Chinese nationalism. Wouldn't have bought the game if I knew it would be censored. Sadly, 1.5 patch adds censorship and makes changes to NPC dialogues, NPC deaths, quest outcomes, and gameplay mechanics such as the madness system. It completely affects the story's message and endings. There is no transparency whatsoever. The details are let out and stay hidden behind general patch description, so you don't expect these changes at all. I'm 57 hours in, enjoying the game so far. One of the greatest level designs since the original Dark Souls. Captivating story. Gameplay is fantastic. With some game performance improvement, I would give it a solid 8 or 9 out of 10. Still in Chapter 3, did not want to give it a score yet. Then patch 1.5 showed up. Game performance improvements are welcome, but this must be the first time I've heard of story plot change post-release. As far as I'm aware, plot change made the story completely different and even makes some of the characters' motivations pointless. I don't know what kind of pressure Lindsay got to go as far as changing the game's plot. I've read that it was criticized by some gamers for not being historically accurate, but the story is fiction, is it not? Yeah. It's why, like, we were just talking about this on Wednesday. The old DLC for Assassin's Creed 3, which is pretty wild at this point. I mean, honestly, it's pretty ridiculous at this point. But it was literally historical fiction in an alternative timeline where George Washington went mad with power and became King Washington, and the DLC is literally called The Tyranny of King Washington. Like, can you imagine if they tried to do this with like a Chinese emperor or something, and they're like, yeah, so Mao, he's now got superpowers and he's a zombie and you have to fight him throughout the game, and then he's the final boss fight. Like, they would lose their minds. They'd lose their minds. Whereas in America, we're like, oh, that's freaking cool as hell. I would have loved if George Washington would have been king. Would have gotten rid of all these communists. It's just very different. Very different. It's too bad. The DLC was like kind of ridiculous. I didn't get to play it till years after the fact because it was so broken. It was like so broken at launch. but it had like all sorts of magical effects in it too. And then it had like a final boss fight on top of a gigantic pyramid that George Washington was building in Washington, or in Philadelphia, I think it was. Like you can kind of see it here. Like literally they were building a gigantic pyramid. It's like pretty unhinged as far as like DLC go, but it's back in the day when Assassin's Creed would just do wild stuff. And you're like, what are we doing, man? What are we doing? But anyway, yeah, they shouldn't censor it. That's freaking stupid as hell. And I don't blame people for being upset about it. I can't think of a time where another game has literally cut and changed the story and like final boss fight outcomes post launch. Like that's pretty insane. Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous. Game Science is going to be at Gamescom. Wuchang DLC soon. Maybe. There's been a lot of rumors and speculation. I've been saying for months, I think they probably are there with a DLC. I think it makes sense. Everything else they did, they typically went to Gamescom, and it was like once a year they would have an update. Once a year they'd have something, and so it's about time. It's about time. Let's look at this though. Well, do I want to actually do that? I gotta think about that. I'm not actually sure. Cyberpunk and UE5 after all the disasters made on UE5. I think UE5, the thing is that it is a very powerful engine and it allows you to get to like 85% optimization and completion very quickly and easily. But the last 15% are pretty expensive and time consuming because like a lot of Unreal projects use blueprints to streamline coding and stuff. And if you've not used blueprints, it's kind of like if you ever made something in Blender, if you think of the node system, if you've used that, it's kind of like that where you tie nodes together and that's how you program basic things. And so it works pretty well, but it's pretty inefficient too. And so one of the things that happens is I think that a lot of dev studios use blueprints during development. And then as they get closer to launch and they're like, hey, it's not running great. They're like, ooh, so we should optimize it by replacing the blueprints with custom code, which is doable, but it's time consuming, expensive, and difficult and can break stuff. And so Unreal is really good at making games quickly and cheaply that get to like pretty close to ready, but getting it the rest of the way is tough, you know. UE5, it's blurry, slow, and gets everywhere. Anakin Epic Walker, probably. Is that a leftover drink? Yes, it's the leftover. It's it was at one time like a blended lemonade energy drink thing, and I had it yesterday, and then I didn't finish it, so I put it in the mini fridge, and I figure it's what I need right now. A little boost, a little pick me up, you know. A little pick me up. Real until they need to optimize the game, and then it's Unreal. I think it's just they will get better. It's already getting better, but it will continue to get better. And you better believe that like Epic Games, they do not want to be known as the engine, like the stutter engine. They want to be known as the definitive best engine for all of these games and that everybody should be using. So they're working on trying to deal with that stuff as best they can. It's just really freaking difficult. It's really, really tough, but it doesn't take away from the fact that Unreal Engine is extremely powerful. It's crazy, and you can make some massive games fairly easily. Yeah, UE5 is going through growing pains. Growing pains, exactly. Give us your thoughts on Mafia. Dude, I've got Jacob's working on it as we speak. He's cutting together the critique I filmed yesterday on it. And yeah, so I will have a multi-hour video out all about it because I have some strong thoughts. But there's no way for me to talk about it without just immediately getting into spoilers. So I figure a critique is the safe space to go to for that, because I can give a spoiler warning at one point and people can understand what they're getting into, and I can just go ham. You know, I figure that's the better way to do it. Safer. Safer to be with you. I did see Threat Interactive did a video on Expedition 33. I guess we could take a look at that. Speaking of Unreal Engine 5 optimization. New segment! Okay, let's see. So, as you guys know, I flippin' love Expedition 33. I love it dearly. It's a special game to me. Incredibly impressive, not just, you know, from a small team creating something like that, but it's also just a moving story. It's creative. It's original and fresh. It's just great in many ways. But one of the things I think that can be said for it is that it doesn't run super great, and it does have a pretty strong reliance on upscalers by default. If you play it on like PC and you crank, you know, you got like a high-end PC with like a 4090 or 5090, of course you'll be fine. But it does rely a lot on upscalers. I think the reason a lot of people are willing to hand wave it away is, of course, because it's a smaller team, because the rest of the game is so freaking good, and because it was considered a budget title. They didn't come out selling it at like $80 or something, or 70. So all of that makes it more palatable, but it is still a game that struggles with the age-old problems of Unreal Engine 5. And Threat Interactive has put together a video discussing this very same point. So let's see what he has to say about it. His rampage against Unreal Engine continues.
People are so starved for unique gameplay and so mentally exhausted by overmilked IPs that they are literally gaslighting themselves and others into thinking that Claire Obscure Expedition 33
Hold on.
is some kind of showcase of how to use Unreal Engine 5 the right way.
I mean, UE5 is good enough. Look at Claire Obscura. If the game is shit, then mostly on the devs. I think, yeah, so like they point out these Arc Raiders, Expedition 33, Finals, Wuchang, all on UE5. You have a PC issue countering to that. There are certainly going to be defenders of it. Ultimately, Unreal Engine 5 is a tool, and my stance has typically been that if you have, like, you can have the world's most impressive hammer, but if you don't know how to use a hammer, you're still going to break stuff and punch holes in the walls while trying to hit a nail in. You know, like if you can have the world's best pickup truck, but if you're bad at installing roofs, it doesn't matter that you had a really great device for transporting the goods or whatever. You know, like, it's a tool. It's a tool. It still fundamentally is up to the like workmanship and the people using the tools to make the good thing, you know?
33 is some kind of showcase of how to use Unreal Engine 5 the right way.
Well, and the specific appeal of Unreal Engine 5 is that it allows for smaller teams to make bigger games faster and cheaper than if they were trying to use like Unity or something else, you know?
Claire Obscure E33 is not a technical masterpiece. It's your basic UE5 disaster. Even with settings that are fairly optimized and based on the PS5 performance configuration, the game can't even hit 60 FPS at native 1080p on a desktop 3060. But it wouldn't matter if it could hit 90 FPS, because this game is one of the ugliest games I have ever laid my eyes on. Maxing out the graphics settings drops the performance to around 35 frames per second. But even then, shadows are noisy, inconsistent, and sometimes non-existent. Meanwhile, older games that look and run better can handle several shadows without issues because of caching.
I think that this is ultimately where like the distinction is important between of course teams and what was like capable of being done. When we are comparing games like, you know, whether it's Days Gone, KCD 2, Ghost of Tsushima, Jedi Survivor, Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, Need for Speed, these are games made by AAA studios on a massive scale, a massive budget, a lot of them using proprietary engines and tool sets and things, except like Jedi Survivor, which is Unreal. So it's not as simple as comparing that to what most people consider to be an indie game. And the distinction, I think, is important because people are willing to put up with a lot more clunk visually and otherwise if it's coming from a smaller team and it's priced appropriately. Once you enter into like the AAA space and you're priced at 70, for example, and you are charging that full price, and you have like the marketing power of PlayStation behind you, like with Ghost of Tsushima or Days Gone, then the expectations raise and the standards should raise, which is why, like, you know, Jedi Survivor, I think, was so lackluster in comparison because it was so bad for being such a massive IP and such a big studio with so many resources. It was just unacceptably bad for those things. But Expedition 33, coming from Sandfall, it's a much smaller team, so I think expectations were lower and people are willing to manage it better.
Or because their geometry is actually optimized. Epic TSR is the only true hardware-agnostic AA option that keeps motion halfway decent, but it costs 3.5 milliseconds to run. That's 7 times slower than the crisp SMA TX2 from modded CryEngine, and it still has a hideous fizzling problem. This game also perfectly illustrates how fundamentally broken Lumen is. It smears particles with trailing artifacts, smears light across the main character's face in unnatural ways, and loses all sense of environmental stability when anything starts moving. Heck, it can't even resolve under a still camera. And like many other games that obliterate performance with nanite over the guise of no LED pop and infinite detail that ends up as horrible subpixel aliasing, users are still stuck with Unreal's incompetent LED transitions. Then to top it all off, the devs force an extreme sharpener to further murder image quality. Now we've already
I do find it really funny how he's just, there is no chill. There is no, you know, it's not a great solution. It's, these devs are incompetent. These devs at this multi-billion-dollar software company, they don't know what the hell they're doing. You know, it's just funny to me. It's funny. It's very dramatic.
Broken down the UE5 pipeline in past videos, and we don't want to waste time repeating all that here. E33 only uses a slightly newer UE5 version than Oblivion, so for this video we're going to focus on the key differences. Specifically what the devs tried to do to squeeze slightly better performance out of a Lumen and Nanite production. Because what the devs did needs to be mentioned when the entire sea of content creators and complacent blind devs are hyping this game as some kind of ray-traced optimized showcase.
Maybe I'm not in the right circles. I don't feel like I don't think I've seen anybody saying that it's like a super well optimized game. Like, you can technically play it on handhelds, that's true. But I don't think that it's like free of optimization issues. Like, I think an optimization masterpiece is probably like KCD 2. I think that game is extremely impressive at how it scales. But I'm not familiar with people saying what he's arguing against. I'm sure there are people saying it. I've just not seen it.
Then, I'm also going to use this game to show how backwards and senseless Epic Games' development philosophy is, and why being aware of these issues can lead to changes inside Unreal. Now let's discuss Lumen first. Performance is very dependent on async compute, and the developers calculate Lumen at a much lower pixel resolution than recommended. On high, it's set to 128. For reference, Unreal's high scalability usually sets this value at 32, and the Epic scalability uses 16. The lower the value, the more expensive and accurate Lumen becomes. The developers also excluded all objects that were not major occluders from the Lumen scene, and as you can see, the developers used software tracing via SDFs. Level 1 Text was recently spewing marketing lies to pretend that Nvidia's hardware ray tracing was a good thing by using this game as an example.
We're debunking this video. You're spreading too many marketing lies. I appreciate the passion. I do. It's just no chill. There is no chill. It's the same energy you get from like Chris Hansen going after, like, you know, actual creepers going after kids. It's the same energy of like, Unreal Engine, take a seat right over there. Take a seat right over there. What are you doing? What do you think? What were you thinking?
They were not aware that this game is actually using software tracing, which means no hardware RT is required. Now real quick, let's talk about Threat Interactive's stance on reflections. Now we've stated that cube maps should be replaced with ray trace reflections, but with our use case and our internal cinematography analysis, we can define a clear direction we want to push towards. So here's how we think the reflections should be approached. Basic world occlusion from the atmosphere is the most important part. Big chunky assets like dumpsters, cars, buildings, and mailboxes should be represented in world space.
Shout out dumpsters.
We might be able to save performance by skipping the color evaluation of whatever portions are not in direct lighting, because directly lit portions of objects and reflections siphon the eye's attention. This is why emissive objects need world space representation even if they're small. World space geometry needs to be simple. Simpler than AC Shadow's approach and closer to Crysis Remastered on 8th gen consoles, but with vertex color data instead of textured geometry. These simplified world objects should be baked into larger structures to avoid overwhelming the GPU with heavily instance-based data. But dynamic objects like doors and cars should still retain individual structures. To save even more performance, trace at a half resolution and use screen space reflections first. SSR, of course, that looks and performs as well as modded Need for Speed 2015. Hopefully we can trace in software so more GPUs can be supported and prevent our studio from playing into NVIDIA's manipulative hardware RT market. This is the direction we want to take our game, and because our project aligns with a common game scenario, other studios can and should adopt reflection technologies that align with what we're discussing here. Now let's discuss how this game handles geometry and nanite.
Okay.
Nanite forces a full-depth prepass on non-nanite geometry due to culling dependencies. The GPU then uses mesh and compute shaders to process nanite's cluster culling logic. That logic alone takes around 2 milliseconds. Maybe this is done in async, but that's doubtful. Then nanite software rasterizer kicks in, writing the first batch of micropolygons at double our recommended prepass budget. Then the next objects rasterized have noticeably more intricate materials assigned to them. Then slow textured geometry is rasterized. The visbuffer prepass takes around 4 milliseconds. That's like rendering Need for Speed 2015's geometry in decompass twice, and the material lighting info hasn't even been evaluated yet. In UE 5.4, the old tiled quad approach is replaced with compute shaders. These don't need full screen vertices, but are slightly slower to shade by about 0.05 milliseconds. This change was meant to fix rare bottlenecks caused from off-screen material draws. It does not optimize nanite's material shading rate, which is where nanite also fails to be efficient. Even though nanite processes materials from the visibility buffer quadlessly in the nanite base pass, it still shades them as if those materials were applied on objects with unoptimized quad overdraw. Sandfall Interactive saved some performance by making sure the slow behavior wasn't applied to the most common material being the floor, which often stands out as a performance killer due to their pixel surface area on the frame and overly texture blended materials. Nanite performs just slightly better in this scene because 30% of the scene wasn't shaded with nanite, keeping the nanite base pass under 2 milliseconds. But remember, geometric inefficiencies get passed into shadows. In the TES Oblivion remake, shadows were a harder problem because of a dynamic sun and horribly unoptimized assets.
Yeah, apparently Oblivion is still broken. I've not gone back to it in a bit, but apparently it still runs like hot donkey ass.
But in E33, shadows could have been aggressively cached. Instead, they take 2 milliseconds, which is insane when games like Days Gone or Half-Life Alyx handle shadows in a third of that time and look better doing it. One of the reasons why shadows are so slow in E33 is because the developers draw the floors and the shadow maps. Meanwhile, better-looking 8th gen games excluded them entirely from the main shadow passes to save performance. And even after taking 2 milliseconds, these shadows are rendered at embarrassingly low resolutions, just to counteract nanite's inefficiencies. Unreal softens these shadows with extreme noise because Epic expects devs to mask it with blurry TAA. Except, as we've discussed, hiding garbage rendering with blurry TAA doesn't actually hide garbage rendering. Now let's quickly dismantle some common nanite lies and defenses for its use.
I love this. As somebody on the outside, I'm not a graphics engineer or programmer. I'm on the outside. I find this stuff interesting. I like looking at it, investigating it. I can certainly understand there's a lot of problems with Unreal Engine 5's pipelines, and we can see it in a lot of games with, as he's pointed out, the fizzling and shadows, the over-reliance on upscalers more generally. It's also a problem across the industry, is this over-reliance on upscalers to hit performance targets. Instead of just actually optimizing, they just go, it's good enough, upscale, we'll hit 60 and call it good. So I can see the problems. I am not equipped to fix the problems. And at least this is discourse to identify and bring a light on the problem a little bit more so that hopefully solutions can be found, which I can appreciate. But I also love how this is like framed in the same way as if it's like life and death drama. You know, it's like one of those reality TV shows where the characters are just like going to the dentist, but the music and everything would make you think that they're fighting for their lives in that moment. And with this, it's like the same thing. It's so intense. It's hilarious to me.
You don't need nanite to fix LED popping. Poppin' will always exist in some other area, so no pop is a false advantage for choosing nanite. Developers can eliminate LED pop using the research we've compiled on this channel using various shipped games. Nanite is a stupid approach for generating detail. Micropolygons introduce subpixel aliasing, which demands blurry TA to fix, which also ends up blurring the very detail you use nanite for. Nanite introduces a massive cost to players under the guise of infinite detail, but artists and studios can't keep up with that promise. It's too memory and labor intensive to truly fulfill. And even if they could produce such dense content, nanite's collapse logic can fail to render objects correctly, leading to polygonal edges anyway. It takes a massive amount of effort to get nanite running semi-non-horrifically slow. It's always the biggest chunk
semi-non-horrifically slow
of rendering in games, despite nanite defenders trying to throw Lumen under the bus for UE5 issues. Advocating for higher quality automated LED generation, texture...
I mean, I will say, it does make sense that if the whole point of Loom or of nanite is to allow for unlimited detail in the meshes and stuff, so you don't have to scale them yourself, and the engine can handle all of that by dynamically handling all of the polygons and everything based on, you know, the distance from the camera, occlusion of other objects, things like that. It doesn't make a lot of sense to still be using nanite if you're still using low poly objects as they show. Like, you know, here where you can actually see the edges of the stairs are still low poly. The whole point of nanite is to allow you to use really smooth edges and high poly count assets because it can handle all of that processing for you. But in this case, you know, jagged, because it's a low poly asset. It's not actually going to be to the quality level that nanite is designed for. So you just end up with a tool you didn't really need to use, and then the tool is making it run worse. So like, what was the point of using it, you know?
Packing and better baking workflows isn't asking for more work. It's basic sane development practices that benefit studios and consumers. The last issue nanite defenders refuse to address is the massive cost of shadows when dealing with micropolygon content. This is something we touched on in Alan Wake 2, which wasn't even targeting micropolygon geometry. With optimized LEDs and a vertex shader path, you can easily have tons of shadowed lights in a scene with great performance, and without noise. Now let's get back to E33's rendering. This game looks extra bad because of another TAA-dependent feature I forgot to mention in our first video's original montage. This graphic aspect being textures. Yeah, not even textures are sacred at this point. Specifically virtual textures, which UE5 uses. Virtual textures are used to stream in smaller chunks of giant textures into VRAM. They almost always look awful because they require stochastic sampling to blend MIP levels unless thin lines of duplicated data is present in VRAM. We're not going too deep on virtual textures in this video, but we're open to hearing in the comments section about use cases where the non-noisy approach could be used to help performance or visuals. But if they're implemented in the way that Unreal does it, they are worthless. UE5's virtual textures also force a full prepass. Now some devs claim you can't notice stochastic texture sampling, and that disqualifies them from judging aesthetics. Yet many of these people are leading the industry, and it shows.
Those people are stupid! They're disqualified!
From judging aesthetics. Can't notice stochastic texture sampling.
TSR off, virtual texture stochastic sampling visible.
Pre-pass. Now some devs claim
so TSR is turned on here, covering it up.
You can't notice stochastic texture sampling, and that disqualifies them from judging aesthetics. Yet many of these people are leading the industry, and it shows. For instance, UE5's motion blur looks terrible even if we use a live console to max out its quality. It still produces this muddy, dithered appearance, while Frostbite's motion blur is cheaper and looks far more natural. We've given a clear vision for graphics, but 99% of studios using Unreal put all their energy and focus on the art direction, music, story, gameplay, yet they completely neglect their responsibility when it relates to optimized graphics, and just blindly adopt Unreal's Fortnite-driven graphics philosophy instead. But here's the thing. Plugging in another company's graphics for their own project would not be a problem if those graphics didn't look like hideous garbage like Unreal.
But this, I think, is also maybe another point. When he says hideous garbage, I think he's specifically referring to like the technical aspects. Like it has a lot of artifacting. It has a lot of, what did he call, fizzling, whatever, in the shadow detail after it's been upscaled. And that's true. But I don't think you can call Expedition 33 a hideous game. Same with like Mafia, The Old Country. Stalker 2 isn't necessarily that much of a looker, so I could see that one. Horizon Adventures is a really good looking game. RoboCop, also pretty damn good looking. Remnant's a good looking game. Silent Hill 2 has animation problems. It's got its own stuff, but I think it's also a pretty good looking game. Tekken's a good looking game. Like all of these are good looking games. I think primarily because of the art direction. Like, could they run better? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But like, I wouldn't call them hideous. And so maybe part of this should be broadening our horizons and outlook, because it seems like Thread Interactive is so hyper fixated on the technical side of rendering pipelines and everything else that the art direction and the utilization of that is being lost, because companies literally, if they can cut a corner, they will. If they can utilize Unreal Engine 5's built-in rendering stuff and not have to tweak it too much themselves, if they can render something at a lower sample and so they can save some performance but it looks terrible, they're going to do that so long as it's good enough to please their customers. And I think, I don't see anybody saying Expedition 33 is an ugly game. Like, could it be better optimized? Yeah, sure. Could it improve on performance? Absolutely. But I think calling it ugly or calling it disgustingly ugly and like that type of thing is, I think you're not going to find a lot of people that agree with them.
Epic's engineers consistently show they don't know what looks good. Brian Karras pushed Lambert over Burley because he couldn't see a difference. But thousands of people can tell when they look at Frostbite games or Frostbite papers that don't use Lambert. The Lambert model is a huge part of that Unreal look that people are sick of because it's so different from realistic behavior. A person's brain is trained to not be fatigued from behavior it's exposed to every day. And while Burly Diffuse is far from perfect, it's progress from Lambert. Karras displayed his low standards again when he pushed his ghosty, blurry TAA as production ready. He showcased his blurry solution in a compressed video with broken bloom and SSR to make it seem like a bigger breakthrough than it actually was. Some developers called out Epic for the misleading comparison, but no voice like Threat Interactive existed at the time. Instead, mainstream reviewers and news outlets were calling the technique incredible. Karras' next big development would be Nanite, the first solution to achieving 1 pixel per triangle, a dream the industry blindly assumed would be progress for graphics, until we showed 1 pixel per triangle detail causes extreme aliasing. Karras again failed to recognize that issue because he lacks the visual reasoning to do so.
I just love to see this guy like run into one of these people in real life, because I feel like it would just immediately turn into a slap fight. And dude, I'd be so there for it. It's so aggressive talking about pixel for triangle or triangle for pixel rendering. It's so funny to me.
or because he is too busy slathering his blurry TAA solution on
Yeah.
his newest work.
Slather it.
Guillaume Abadi, the Epic Games engineer behind TSR,
but even that, I'll try to point out like ghosting or trailing effects on gameplay footage when I notice it, and I think it's going to be distracting or interrupting of like your enjoyment of the game. This though, most people's complaint about this tech demo that they did for Unreal Engine 5 is that we still don't have games that look this good. So I think even pointing out here, like temporal ghosting,
Abadi,
yes, it's there, but it's masked so freaking well by the rest of the scene that sort of practically, it doesn't have an effect. And I think that this is the one thing, all of like game development is about trade-offs. It's literally about like cutting this corner here so that you can do this thing over here. It's about this is going to cause this artifact over here, but we're going to cover it up by over here. A lot of it's like misdirection, just like a magic show. And with this, like, you know, even down to load screens, like the classic squeeze through a tight corridor so that we can load the next area without a load screen. Like little things like that, which are just about covering up and disguising what's actually happening. That's just the tale of game design. And one thing I've been trying to accept, I guess, is that the reality of the situation is that things like temporal upscalers are here to stay. They are an advancement that helps a lot of people play games at higher resolutions and frame rates than they would have been able to otherwise. They can absolutely be abused by studios and companies that I think cut too many corners with them. But that's been true for decades of any type of graphics rendering technique or of any sort of technological advancement. If they can cut a corner, some companies will cut it too hard and slam into the corner of the building, you know? But with this, like, again, we can point out the ghosting, which is certainly present. As you can see, this is what he's talking about here. It's certainly present, but I think the fact that most people think that it looks so good or still looks really good is an indication of how it probably doesn't matter for most people for the consumer side, which is why they do it.
Games engineer behind TSR, made an overly expensive,
Noble Villain, by the way, thank you for the sub. Thank you.
Blurry, flickery, and rotation insensitive upscaler, and thought it would be good enough to allow inside the industry standard engine. If he knew what looked good, he would not have pushed such a terrible solution into the industry. Daniel Wright is another Epic Games engineer in charge of Unreal's lighting development. I have less problems with his work, but while other console games were implementing GI without light maps or ray tracing, he limited GI to landscapes and just expected console developments to throw in a basic skylight with problematic DFAO layered with a terribly incompetent SSAO he allowed in the engine. It's not surprising that he would end up leading the development of Lumen, a horrible-looking, smeary, unstable, TAA-dependent lighting solution.
Sorry, I just realized my face was covering his face.
Tech reviewers have propagated the industry's low standards with videos or articles of praise because their range of satisfaction falls within: is so-and-so game better looking than X PS3 title? Does X game use ray tracing? And what is our interview status with said studio?
I'm trying to think of an example where somebody compared a game to a PS3 game. I mean, there's been some. It wasn't Saints Row. There's been some games where I specifically remember comparisons. Oh no, it was that open world game from what was it called? It's when Joraptor did that video on where the shadows were terrible. I think it was last year. It was like the first. Was it from the Neo devs? Rise of the Ronin. Yeah, Rise of the Ronin it looked like a PS3 game. It really did. So that I think you could bring up. I've heard that once. I wouldn't say that it's a lot of like a widespread thing, but maybe he's aware of more instances. I would hope that he would specifically quote or reference what he's referring to, but he doesn't. Does X game use ray tracing? Obsession with buzzword tech and being pro progress. I mean, I think most people just rely on a gut check. Like, does it look good or does it look bad? If it looks good, thumbs up. If it looks bad, thumbs down. Expedition 33, despite the problems it has because of Unreal Engine and everything else, it certainly still is a very good looking game. So it passes the gut check. Like, ultimately, all of the technical mumbo jumbo doesn't really matter if the audience's perception is that it's good enough or even exceptional. Even if you can point out problems with it, if they're still satisfied, that's all that really matters at the end of the day. Like, they're trying to sell a product, the audience is satisfied with the product, and that's, you know, maybe a problem in and of itself. But you know, if people like the way a game looks and they buy it, then they're going to buy it, and the developer's happy, everybody's happy. And then, what is our interview status with said studio? Biases praise for product and game tech on current status. This is something like, this is a very Reddit-esque point. In my experience, and I've spoken to a lot of the people that work at some of these big outlets as well, like, the people negotiating coverage and that like get IGN the exclusive access to Mafia, the Old Country's first gameplay demo, the people negotiating that are not the people covering the game, deciding what they say about it. Like, it's different people. The executives and the high level people and the editors and stuff, they're the ones talking with the studios, getting that stuff established. And then the people doing the analysis are much lower down. And none of those people lower down that I've ever spoken to have said, oh yeah, we try to go easy on the big guys so we maintain coverage. Because I don't think they care. They're not paid enough for that. And if they were told by their bosses, hey, go easy on EA, go easy on Ubisoft, go easy on whoever, because we want to get coverage of their next game, I think they would be willing to say that, you know, because that would be kind of a shocking thing. It's just not something I've ever seen. I've not seen this in my experience, but it kind of fits the narrative. So it's kind of a conspiracy theory that people run with, is that people lie for coverage. I just haven't seen it personally.
These reviewers, like Karis, are all the same. They cannot tell the difference between a Lambert lit mess and a more accurate lighting model, which hints at these reviewers' incompetency to bring proper accountability to the rendering mistakes graphic programmers are making. You know who else has poor standards in graphics?
Satan!
CDPR. They've only made one semi-realistic game, and it's a blurry, dithered mess that only looks decent when NVIDIA's marketing tech is used. The Unreal Engine look is the dithery, Lambert diffuse, blue skylit garbage AO TAA smeared look. The UE5 look is the Lambert diffuse, flickery lumen, noisy nanite, broken shadow, low FPS look.
I think, again, my point would just be that I don't think it ultimately matters so long as the customers are satisfied. Because, again, we can point to some of those games that were brought up earlier. I think Days Gone is a good-looking game. I think Cyberpunk's a good-looking game. Expedition 33 is a good-looking game. Like, I understand that on a technical level there are shortcomings, but ultimately the audience, they're the customers. They're the ones with the dollars. They get to decide what is and isn't right. The customer's always right. They're the ones that get the thumbs up, thumbs down, ultimately, because if they don't like the way something looks, they probably won't buy it. And if they do like the way something looks, they're much more likely to buy it. So, like, these are all very cool academic debates and things to have. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think it's the audience's perception that will dictate what is accepted.
UE5 is not making realistic graphics more accessible. It's making bad graphics the standard. Karis is mentioned thousands of times in rendering.
Or maybe it's making, like, pop graphics, if you want to phrase it that way. It's what I used to say about when I sold TVs. Like, Samsung demo TVs were crazy bright and would crank the vividness and, like, the contrast up so they would look super vivid and bright in the store. If you tried to watch that setting, that setup on your TV at home, it would burn your eyes and you wouldn't want to do it. But you watch it anyways because it's like, you know, people like bright stuff. They think that's cool. And for the average consumer, they think brighter is better. That's literally the extent of their judgment on it. It was always really triggering because people are like, I just crank the motion stuff. Yeah, motion enhancement, and then I turn it bright all the way up. And yeah, I don't watch HD or 4K footage. I just also primarily plug it into the cable box. It's like, get out of my store right now. Get out. When I sold TVs is Luke's I worked at Blizzard. No, I feel like my I worked at Blizzard is I have a degree in corporate finance. I feel like that's my thing. It's like, oh, really, Luke? I had no idea. Anyway, I would finish this, but I just realized we have to go pick up the kids in just like a few minutes. We got to leave. So I have to cut it there. I'm sorry for the late stream today, my friends. I'm sorry. But things happen. But we'll be back on Monday. I hope over the weekend to publish the big Mafia critique. So you should get that. It's going to be a big, girthy video. Jacob, if you're in here, what's it running now? Or did you get it cut down? And you're just going through footage. I wonder. When Jacob starts editing critiques, he like goes into his cave and you don't hear from him that much. And he just like goes into it and he just goes deep. He like gets so focused. It's kind of scary, frankly. But anyway, we'll get that to you. It's still below 3 hours, but it's in the high 2 hour range. Okay, I'm sorry. Jacob was like, wow, nice end of the week, not too much to do, nice and relaxed. I'm like, well, here's this monstrosity, figure it out. Gotta love it. Anyway, everybody, much love. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'm sorry for the abrupt end. We gotta go. Much love. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will talk to you guys first thing next week. It's gonna be a good one. We got Gamescom next week. We're gonna do the full reaction. It's gonna be awesome, okay? It's gonna be great. And we'll do predictions on Monday for what we think we'll see, okay? Because I think there's gonna be some surprises. We'll see you then. Hugs and kisses. Much love. Bye-bye.